Can you push a lawnmower? Can you stand up at your daughter's wedding for 3 hours? Can you bring the groceries in inside? I already hit record, so welcome to the Burkdoeswork podcast. Had to get Christian slipping a little bit. This is a very special day. This is the very first recorded visual podcast. So thank you guys so much if you're watching on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere else, Instagram, Reels. Again, this is the Burkdoeswork podcast. My name is Ricky Burke. I'm here with my co-host for the day, guest star, Christian Roddy.
What's going on?
First off, let's give everybody kind of already knows me and my platform. I want to give this opportunity to interview Christian, talk about our experience working together. So tell the people a little bit about who you are, what you do, why you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thanks for having me on. Super excited to have this opportunity to kind of break things down with you. But yeah, my name's Christian Roddy. I currently manage and run gyms here in Southern California, specifically in the San Diego area. Been working in the fitness industry for about 8 years. That's actually where me and Ricky met, probably about like 7 of those years ago, right? And then 15, currently also co-host of the Hustle Huddle podcast.
Available on all platforms.
Yeah, thanks. Absolutely. And honestly, just love the community in the fitness industry, specifically in Southern California, just the things it allows us to do and like work with people like yourself, and honestly super rewarding and fulfilling. Wouldn't trade it for the world.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, man. To kind of go more into the professional relationship, we won't say what gym, but me and Christian both essentially separately started at the bottom barrel at different clubs and eventually ended up working together. And that's a little bit of what our subject matter today is going to be regarding, more your start in the fitness industry, whether it be personal or even professional, and what the pros and cons, do's and don'ts, our personal experiences, and what we see now post-COVID. It's just been a massive difference and change. I just turned 27 last week. I've been lifting in a commercial gym environment at least since I was 15 or 16. So the last 10, 11, 12 years from a personal aspect has changed so much. But I've been separated from the commercial gyms for about 2.5-ish years now. You're still currently in one. Mm-hmm. So talk about what you see nowadays as far as from when we were younger, 18, 19, and what we were doing in the gym, our consistencies, our regimens, how we looked at the gym versus how somebody may see it nowadays.
Yeah, the perspective definitely has shifted if you're looking from the outside from what we saw, when we were 18, or even if you go back to our athletic careers, like 12 to 15 when we started, right? To now, the landscape's really changed. Back in the day, I don't think it was as trendy for the younger demographic to be in the gym back then. We were kind of outliers within our own group, obviously, when our athletic career ended, and we wanted to think about what we want to do for ourselves from not only from a career standpoint, but still want to be disciplined young adults, if we can call ourselves that back then. But getting into it, I feel like there's a lot more pride in it. It was taken not seriously by the general demographic, but I feel like we took it seriously with our lack of knowledge. Like, you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And through that experience, I think we just met so many challenges along the way that almost we get excited by, right? You're like, okay, this is something new. I want to try this. I want to try that. Mm-hmm. Whether it was from the corporate standpoint of building your career, or if it was building our bodies at the time, to where nowadays it's a little bit more trendy. You're seeing a younger demographic that we never saw in the amounts that we're seeing it now. And some are taking it super seriously, maybe a little too serious, but also good for them. Like, there's 18-year-olds walking around my gym that did not look like 18-year-olds back when we were doing it.
Exactly.
Which also brings a lot of good content, but also there's a whole different platform of content that are from people who've maybe been in the industry for only a year, when back then we had to seek out subject matter experts. Now it's quote unquote everybody's a subject matter expert. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more info as you see social media's become more prevalent, but more people in that demographic of social media are also participating in fitness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and lots to unravel from the back and forth there, but I want to go into from our perspective in the fitness industry, professionally yeah. and personally. It's crazy to see I think it might have actually been your podcast actually. But even personally, when I go into these commercial gyms now, I see kids that, in the face, I don't go up to them and ask them how old they are, but they look like they're, 18, 19, 20, 21 in the face, but their body maturity, their muscular maturity, their muscle density is like, I don't want to be pointing fingers saying that you're on some certain things or not, but I mean, it is wild just the amount of, or the vast difference in body composition in adolescents nowadays versus even when we were younger. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that has to do with, instant gratification through where we're at in the world with anxiety, depression, people just wanting to, instantly be there. Because I feel like when I was younger, we both played high school football. Mm-hmm. I believe we both pursued a college career. Both didn't work out for both of us. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of how we fell into working at a commercial gym. And, I'm not going to say we learned the hard way, and this isn't the only way to learn. Of course, if you want to, throw shit at the wall until something sticks, quote unquote, it's easiest to do it in a commercial gym where there's the most people, and people see that, oh, this guy does this exercise, so this must be good for this and that and that. But really, they don't see, what could go on at home, how their diet is, how their consistency is, what hormones they may or may not be taking. Yeah. And it's just insane, the vast difference, even in the stigma of, steroids or even going to the gym. What have you seen? I know you work at kind of like a quote unquote, not meathead gym, but a lot of the demographic there is powerlifters, weightlifters, a lot of younger kids too.
Absolutely.
How have you seen the kind of fitness industry change a little bit in the adolescence aspect?
Yeah. So from that standpoint, I do operate a commercial gym at the moment, but from the commercial standpoint, to your point, it is a heavier lifting gym based on the demographic and where we are. And I think it is a...
I know it's we're kind of walking on eggshells right here because we don't want to say that person's on steroids or that person's on SARMs or that person's this or that.
A lot of people look great.
But I feel like,
and I see them putting in work.
For me and you, being who we are, our professional, personal aspect, we've worked in commercial gyms. Mm-hmm. We've talked to people who have used and haven't used. And I feel like for the most part, we have a solid understanding of what it takes to attain a certain physique. Mm-hmm. And these days, hey, what do you do for your workout? Oh, I do cardio a couple times a week. I hit the sauna, this and that. And, it's, like I said, we want to walk on eggshells and not say, oh, this person's on steroids or this person is or isn't cheating. But what can you say from the instant gratification aspect? I don't know if it's anxiety, depression, the personal factors that may drive people to, one, step in the gym, but even two, take the gym, quote unquote, too seriously from a younger age and possibly put their body in harm.
Definitely. So to touch on that, I think when you word it perfectly, so when you have instant gratification versus delayed gratification, I think social media was maybe a little less prevalent when we were getting in the gym industry, and it was okay to go through the trial and error. And it's we were so young, and you still get beginner gains, so any type of progress was progress to us, and we were happy about it. And in today's day and age, when you see it, an 18-year-old with 10,000 followers, and they're being kind of judged on their social media presence or how they look, and that demographic is like, if you looked like you kind of lifted back when we were kids, you looked good. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, it's like they all kind of look good.
It's like the standard.
Now, and we see that maybe more than your average person does because we are in the gym a lot. Even yourself, you're still training, you still work out and take care of yourself. So you're probably spending more hours in the gym than most people would. But definitely, I think they're taking it more seriously from a mental standpoint, and that could be a pro or a con. A lot of times, probably a con, because when you are that young, from 18 to 21, they talk about the drinking age being 21 because the frontal lobe of their brain isn't fully developed, and that mostly gears towards long-term decision-making and consequence, like cause and effect. So they might be taking, not to say PEDs or like steroids or anything, but they're looking for the short route. They're like, how can I look like that the best? How can I get there the quickest? I don't want my PR to jump 5 pounds per week. I want it to jump 100 pounds next week. And they're willing to do some sacrifices for that, whether it be eating or like cuts. Like they want to look good. They're doing drastic cuts that we would never recommend a client do because it's not sustainable, or it won't create healthy habits with your emotional connection to food. Mm-hmm. So that was a long tangent, but I just see them definitely looking at fitness from a knee-jerk reaction type emotional standpoint. Like they make decisions based on what's good for them right now, which could lead to shortcuts, steroids. Like I'm not going to say there's a lot of kids on them because they are kids, and we adapted or reacted to whatever stimulus we were putting ourselves through in the gym really quick. But there are some kids that look like they could probably step on stage soon outside of their maybe muscle like density, but from like a physique standpoint, I'm like, wow, that guy looks crazy.
Yeah. And the only reason I brought that up, and it's kind of a hot button topic just to get into off the rip, so I'm sorry for
no, you're good.
Yeah,
I like spicy
in the pod. Yeah, but I mean, just with where we're at this day and age in the world, like I said, with the workouts, with the exposure that's out there, social media, podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, Reels, TikTok, it must play such a major factor. I know it has on me, stepping away from the commercial gym industry, getting into quote unquote like a normal job, and I keep doing these quote unquotes, but getting into a normal job and slowly but surely, as I still maintain, a core group of clients that I had. But it's funny because people think that like just because I don't work in a commercial gym anymore, I don't lift or I don't work out or I don't think of myself as a fit and healthy person. And it's just so funny to separate myself from the meathead mentality of what I used to think. And, I used to think, if I take 1 or 2 days off, I'm going to get small, I'm going to get shrivel and this and that. And I could only imagine how anxious I was as an 18, 19-year-old, amateur bodybuilder, because that's what I was. I never got a chance to step on stage, but I think both of us at least did one half prep together. And I know separately we kind of had our different personal goals that we were trying to attain. But me, that was almost 10 years ago, under no COVID restriction, under, quote unquote normal lifestyle, and I was relatively young. So I could only imagine the depression, anxiety, thoughts that are going through the adolescents now, the 18, 19, 20-year-olds, what they think their self-worth is, what they think their career path should be, and really just, like I said, it's a hot button topic, but the instant gratification, like I wanted to bring you on here, of course, because I feel like you have worked in a commercial gym for long enough, multiple locations.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have the resources at your fingertips, whether it be the managers or the personal trainers. And I just want to, I'm going to kind of go off on a tangent.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to edit this out here. But I guess the best way to put this is I wanted to make sure I brought you on here to really explain that if you are somebody who is younger, who is, just now trying to step into the gym, you want X, Y, and Z from the strength, the physique, the girls, this and that. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take, knowledge. And that's where a personal trainer may come in. That's where a mentor may come in. And if you decide to hop on some, hormones or whatever, all power to you. But I am a personal trainer. I have been for about almost 7 or 8 years now. Again, that's where I met Christian from. And all too often I just see bro science happening with the steroids and the guessing, and my uncle said this, so I'm going to do that. And basically I just went off on a long tangent about how you develop this anxiety disorder and this body dysmorphia because you think you should attain this goal because Brad Castleberry is over here looking like The Rock. But think of all the time, effort, energy he's put into his physique and his effort and his efforts that he's done to get himself where he's at, when somebody who's literally half his age wants that right now. So it's tough. I don't really have like a question to ask you right now. I'm kind of just rambling, but yeah, I mean, what do you have to say?
I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, fitness is, if you're coming about the right way, it's a lifestyle. So with that, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you don't realize when you're in the seat, right? Because even when I got into the commercial gym setting when I was 18 years old, and like I've literally grown up in the gym. Like that's literally what I tell people. I've spent majority of my adult life in gyms. And consistency is always going to be key. And, you could take shortcuts. And a lot of times once you get to whatever like goal you were looking for and you took shortcuts, it's not nearly as gratifying. But I wouldn't take shortcuts if I have to sacrifice something else. Like I'm sure you have and I have, like we've gotten to like single digit body fats multiple times, and it's like sometimes it wasn't like the healthiest cuts, or we didn't like how we looked when we got there, and then we've done bulks and things like that. And but what I was saying is, when you're 18 and being in that seat, it feels like your life's already halfway over. And like looking back now, like 8 years ago, like that's literally another lifetime to me. Like that was so long ago, and I still have so much further ahead. Like I could, which I'm fluffy right now, but this is like a comfortable walk around weight for me. Like I can go deadlift like a pretty substantial weight right now if I want to, or I can do a cut for the wintertime if I want to go to Italy in the winter or some shit like that. Sorry for cussing. Don't know if we're allowed to do that.
No,
Cool.
this is fine.
I'm kind of in that comfort zone where I could live my life in moderation, but still go into a fitness route if I want to.
Of course.
And that's not going away anytime soon. Like at 26 or 27, I'm about to be 27 soon. Like, bro, there's still and plenty of goals you could set up. Like you don't have to take these shortcuts. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Back to what I was saying, and I think more people need to look at it that way. I liked a trend that I saw recently on TikTok. So as much as we're gonna hate on social media today. But they posted what they looked like over the last 3 summers. And it was drastically different for every year. And sometimes you don't realize the progress you're making day to day because we see ourselves every day. Like we're our worst critics. We're going to look in the mirror and we don't notice the quarter inch at a time, a half inch at a time. But when you look at it in those big pictures like that, it's like you in 3 years from now could be unrecognizable. You in 6 months from now could be unrecognizable if you put your head down and grind for it. But if you're always looking for the short-term fix, how can I do this? Or you're not putting in the work for it, you won't get those big jumps over a year because you weren't consistent in anything.
And I think, when it comes to your point, I mean, we have the ability and the knowledge to be able to bounce around goals, whether it be, adding mass with hypertrophy, bodybuilding, but also, I'm pretty heavy into like strength and endurance right now. I'm actually getting ready to run a 10K in a couple months. I might even do a 15K. I'm no longer competing in Muay Thai, but the last, I'd say 1 or 2 years, I've been heavily focused in just becoming the best martial artist I can be. And it's awesome because I know my actual fitness knowledge and what I've learned in the gyms from, just how to do a deadlift and just creating that base level of strength, but then also at the same time being humble and showing enough humility to ask other trainers or ask other people, hey, how did you do this? Or can you help me with this? And just like you said, the crazy transformation over years, I feel like it's really hard for bodybuilders specifically because we all know how hard it is to add muscle, right? Yeah. It's all about calories in versus calories out. And I mean, I think from a money aspect, an effort aspect, energy aspect, it's a lot easier to skip meals or diet, or in my opinion, I think it's slightly easier to lose weight. I'm saying weight, that'd be water weight, fat. You can atrophy muscle. You will lose weight much easier than you will gain muscle.
Lean muscle mass.
The lean point, or the main point of bodybuilding. And again, this conversation is to not be a gatekeeper because, of course, this is just our experience through our knowledge and what we've done professionally. And gatekeepers, that's a term that I want to talk to you about specifically from a personal and a professional standpoint. Now that we've kind of talked about, our personal opinions through our professional aspect, I kind of want to ask you, and I guess we can kind of interview each other, from a professional aspect, walk me through how you got into the current position you are in today as a general manager at a big box gym. I won't say which one. And, what were some of the professional hurdles that you had to overcome from, people not letting you move up, people thinking you're not good enough to either lateral move, even clubs even. Yeah. And then, obviously stuck your head down and you're freaking killing it now. But kind of switching gears towards or from personal more into professional, how were you able to, work through the haters and work through the adversity to get where you are now?
Yeah, it's funny. And we were just talking about consistency when it comes to fitness, and I think fitness teaches you a lot about yourself, and that translated into my professional life. So consistency over time,
How'd you even start working for the gym?
So initially getting into the gym industry, we kind of touched on our athletic background, so obviously fitness was always a part of our life. Initially, my originating intent for a career choice was I want to help people. So I was going to school for firefighting, actually at Palomar College here in San Diego. Knocked out my EMT, fire science and construction, I believe was the AA at the time. Oh, it's fire science technologies was the AA at the time. And pretty much wrapped up those courses. And I was already working at the gym part-time because I was waiting tables and doing that. And I was like, well, I need a little bit more money while I'm going to school. And I was doing graveyards at the gym because I was like, yeah, just give me whatever you got. I'll do coursework there. And I realized firefighting wasn't always running into burning buildings and pulling people out. It was a lot of emergency medical side, which is rather depressing and very stressful, right? Like someone's life's literally in your hand most of the time. And even at the paramedic level, a lot of the skills you're trained to do is to kind of sustain life until someone else can do more about it. Mm-hmm. And by kind of a blessing in disguise, when I look at it, as I was kind of thinking about more school or things like that, like tore my ACL, and that kind of made that side of my mind where it's like, should I continue firefighting? Should I go back to firefighting? Where like when the gym was possibly opening me more opportunities, I was like, no, that can't be a firefighter anymore. Had knee surgeries. I want to help people in this avenue. Mm-hmm. And I think fitness was just something I always enjoyed, but as you spend more time in the industry, you realize what it can do for people. And that was like, I'm going all in here. And I think there was a moment where I was like, how can I help people in the gym? It was sales, or is it, which sales I think of as like just effective communicating, or was it training? And it was like, I can make a really deep impact with people, being a trainer and having maybe 30 clients at a time. It's this really in-depth relationship. Or I can be on the sales side, still work on my education, right? Like obviously took the PTA Global that we offered at the time, and I've also dabbled with NASM. But it was, I could have 100 connections like a month, but it's not as deep of a relationship, but I could be the catalyst for them to make the change, hopefully, when they come in. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to make the biggest impact as possible. And through that, I felt bottlenecked in the sales environment. I was like, even if I'm taking 100 guests like a month, like I'm still only helping 100 people. How can I help more people? Mm-hmm. And I was just kind of seeing other people throughout the industry not maybe doing it for the right reasons, or maybe not doing it as well as I am, if we don't want to look at it from a confidence standpoint. Sure. But I was like, I want to help more people. The way I can do that is get into a leadership role, teach people the way I do it, teach people why I do it the way I do it, and then they can help people. Now I feel like I was making a greater impact in the community.
Absolutely.
Sorry for the long-winded answer to that question. But
absolutely. And I mean, piggybacking off that, I mean, I feel like a lot of, we started in the gym at the same time, so a lot of our philosophies are the same. Mm-hmm. And relating back to the why, I mean, I think you have a very purposeful why. Mm-hmm. I mean, you felt like you would get in front of the most people and have the most impact from the sales aspect while you continue to work on the training and the education that you're mm-hmm. currently preaching.
Yeah.
And just so you all know, I essentially did the same thing, except I actually just went the training route. And then eventually me and Christian actually worked together. He was a sales manager and I was the assistant fitness manager. And then I eventually became the fitness manager. And we crushed it. And I think we crushed it so hard because of our like-minded philosophies. Mm-hmm. I won't say where, but the gym I feel like we were at when we first started. Oh, shoot. Unfortunately, you didn't finish with me. No. But when we started there, you definitely started it. I will say that because you got me there. But yeah, I'm just kidding. No. But Christian got me there. And, I think we worked together I was at that gym for about maybe 2.5 years. The first year, Christian and I were together. The second year, I was with another sales manager, but then I had also hired an assistant fitness manager to back me up. And that entire gym, I believe when I first got there, had maybe 4 or 5 trainers. Mm-hmm. Eventually, with your help, with the general manager's help, we were able to increase that head count from, 4 or 5 all the way up to 17 at one point. For not a very high dollar amount demographic type of club. And I think that speaks volume to what we're able to visualize from a why standpoint. A lot of people think it's just a simple question. Why do you work out? Mm-hmm. Why this? Why that? Why do you go to work? Why do you make money? And sure, it's such a surface level question. And a lot of people would just assume that people would work out like somebody with more body fat probably works out to lose body fat. What if they're not, though? What if they're trying to just work out to improve their cardiovascular health because they have an autoimmune disease? Mm-hmm. Or, I hate to keep throwing myself or interjecting myself, but I've atrophied a good amount of muscle because I physically just am unable to weight train right now. I have a bunch of bone loss in my shoulder. And when I was getting semi-competitive in powerlifting, it was just the risk versus reward was just not there for me. Mm-hmm. And that's what mentally was harder for me, and I know a lot of other people may struggle with that too, being a former athlete and then having to adjust versus wanting to adjust.
Yeah.
And sorry, kind of going off on a tangent there too. But, what can you say about, the the training that you were able to receive from the commercial gym, obviously we sponsored certifications for you, for other trainers, but if you were a personal trainer, if you were somebody who wanted to become a personal trainer or even get heavily into fitness, what would your recommendation be for them, whether it be a certification aspect, a mentorship aspect? Who should they listen to? Who should they follow? What type of mentality should they have going forward if they were just, somebody out there that is just trying to change their life for the better and positive and, leaping in?
Yeah. So to explain this answer, I'll kind of start with what you were saying with people's whys. And it's the same company you should work for. It's the same way that you should carry yourself. It's the same way you should learn. It's the same way you find a mentor. It's kind of, if you've heard of Simon Sinek and the Golden Circle. So great people, great leaders, great companies, they start from the in. That's the why circle. The second circle is the how, and then the third circle is the what. Not so great leaders, companies, and employees will focus on the what, then go to the how am I going to get that what, and then the why they'll figure out later. So it's like if your what was a financial gain, and then you're like, okay, how am I going to get that money? And it's like, cool, now why did I want that money in the first place? Your thinking's backwards. You start with what you want, why you're doing this. So if it's to support your families, have more strong relationships at home with your kids, like whatever it is, and then you figure out, okay, how am I going to do that? And now this is what I do to get that. I think that's a thing that you need to connect. So figure out your why, and does that connect to the company? Does it connect to the people around you? Does it connect to the clients you're working with, So that was the first answer I wanted to give to that question, but more so, I think experience in all forms, right? So
failure is experience too.
Yeah, don't be afraid to fail, for real. So, and I think that's why I do enjoy the commercial setting, because you get so many opportunities. So like my facility will have 40,000 workouts this month. Like this month alone, like there's few places on earth, like if you want to get in the fitness industry, you'll have that much exposure to people. And it's like, yeah, you don't want to let somebody down, and you won't if you have a right intent and you're giving it them your all to help them and meet them wherever they're at in their fitness journey. But I think just giving it that. So as long as you're willing to put yourself out there, expose yourself, like the risk to reward ratio is very small. Like you having a conversation with somebody about their goals, you starting a job at a commercial gym, and it's like, okay, didn't work out, cool, there's another gym across town. It's like, and it's 3 months, 6 months, and it's like you're there, like in the scheme of things of your life again, that is like not even a drop in the bucket. And I think you just put yourself in scenarios of where you can grow. You got to find people that you haven't worked with, places you haven't been, people you haven't talked to. And I think wherever you land, if you have a good why, you have a company that you can relate with that why, and you have leaders who have a why of their own, you'll be okay. Obviously, there's going to be return on investment from these people, but a lot of the times, that's why I do love this industry, is it is a good community, and a lot of people, whether it's members, team members, or coworkers, like hopefully they should have a similar mindset. And if they don't, then you know you're not around the right community. Keep moving.
No, absolutely. Well, good, man. I'm glad you answered it, because I pretty much would have answered it the same way. I think kind of relating it back to, anxiety, depression, the why, I think a lot of people more often get stuck with paralysis by analysis.
Oh, for sure.
They definitely overthink, okay, why do I want to do this? How am I going to do it? What am I going to do to get there? And then all of a sudden the confidence creeps in, or the self-doubt and lack of confidence creeps in of, oh shoot, I'm a little overweight, I've never stepped in a gym, I don't know what to do, like I'm not very confident in this. And then, you kind of get into this vicious cycle of either staying where you're at or perhaps even going backwards. You stress yourself out, and it's like, oh my gosh, my doctor's saying that I need to lose 30, 40 pounds. I have no idea what I'm going to do. You're stressing out. You're holding on to cortisol. And then maybe, you have a couple glasses of wine because you're so stressed out. You stress eat. And you're making the matter, quote unquote, worse for the situation that it be. So, I mean, what are some good ways for people to, of course, everybody, it's easy to say, take action. It's easy to say, find your why. But what, in your personal and professional experience, like what advice can you give out to, just get people just to start, just to go?
Yeah, so we talked about gatekeeping earlier, and definitely this is where I'd give like the opposite of that, is like something is better than nothing. Like, I know it sounds like, oh, just starting again, but when I said like experience earlier, like I just mean reps, like whether it's conversations, whether it's workouts, whether it's going to the gym, like even if you went to the gym and did nothing but walk on the treadmill for 15 minutes, like there's a sense of accomplishment, like, right? Like you made it to the gym if you weren't going before. Definitely. You did an exercise. Like, it's like, cool, baby steps. Like, if you consistently do that, you'll eventually get the motivation and confidence to do more. Like, the way to get more confidence is by do something you didn't necessarily want to do. And then it's like, once you get that, there's that sense of accomplishment. You realize that it wasn't this big, scary thing on the other side. And it's like, whether it's working at a new place, going to a new school, doing a workout for the first time, you realize on the other side of all that worry, it wasn't that bad. I try to tell people, like, worrying or getting stressed about a situation that hasn't happened yet, like, even if the worst does come to pass, you worried yourself twice. Like, there's no sense of worry. Like, if you're worried about the worst to happen, like, you're suffering twice. Yeah, so just hope for the best, prepare for the worst, I guess, but just something is better than nothing. And, like, just get the ball rolling. And literally life, as I've seen it to this point, is really like a snowball going down a hill. Like, wherever you put your energy, it'll gain momentum. Yeah. Now, do you want to put that energy into negativity in those drinks you were talking about? Or do you want to put the energy in something, like, positive and optimistic? No matter how small, like, it will get momentum.
No, definitely. I think a really good quote from Matt Frazier, who was a, like, 5 or 6 time world's fittest man in the CrossFit Games.
And Olympic lifting, like, world champion.
He, one of his favorite quotes from one of either his documentaries or one of the CrossFit documentaries was, to get to places you've never been, you got to do things you've never done. And, you know, my trainer is going to show here only because a lot of times when people haven't worked with me yet, like in a commercial gym setting, I have a lot of volume of people that would come to see me for consultations. So I've essentially heard it all when it comes to excuses, when it comes to why you can't start, and whether it be, you know, a financial aspect, an anxiety aspect, you know, just self-doubt. You know, the 4 or 5, I guess, main reasons somebody would need a personal trainer: motivation, accountability, knowledge, and support. And if there's anything that you're going to get out of this podcast today, those 4 things, whether it be from a fitness aspect or anywhere where you're struggling in your life, motivation, accountability, knowledge, and support is going to get you there. It's the best way to basically give you the blueprint and the line out. And I think actually you or Robert might have, like, wrote that on my clipboard a little while ago. But
I was like, that definitely sounds familiar. I love it.
Yeah, but I mean, and like I said, I mean, there are probably trainers out there that are better than me. There are probably podcasters out there that sound better than me. But when it comes to my why, my specific why, you know, I'm just another, you know, skinny little kid out there that was a little nerd with glasses who just, you know, fell into sports, which eventually fell into fitness, which eventually fell into a career. And, you know, there's nothing that makes me happier than, you know, waking up and genuinely enjoying what I do, or at least what my lifestyle allows me to do. And if that's enough for me to be able to share, you know, on an online platform or even with my current clients. And I mean, just thanks for coming on. I mean, I want to keep this thing going, but I just want to kind of just show you the appreciation and just say thanks for, you know, everything that we've been able to accomplish from thank you for everything we've been able to accomplish on a professional level. And, you know, I'm bummed out I don't work with you anymore.
No, but, for sure.
Yeah, man. From, you know, a motivation, accountability, knowledge, and support. What do you think you lack? You may not lack anywhere, but if you had to say...
No, I mean, everybody can get better in any aspects. And a lot of times most people need all 4. Some people, depending on where they're at in their life, need more help in one area. I mean, knowledge, like, there's the Dunning-Kruger scale, like, that's your confidence in a subject and your knowledge in a subject. Like, as you have a little bit of knowledge, your confidence skyrockets. And then it's like, oh, I realize I don't know everything. Your confidence dips. And then it's like you learn a little bit more, and now you're kind of in the middle. You're like, I know a lot, but I also know enough now that I don't know everything.
Yeah.
So there's so much information out in the world, so I could always use more of that.
Sure.
And I'm aware of that. Support, I truly think I've been blessed to work with people like yourself and build a community in San Diego, Southern California, where I feel like I've got a great support system. Motivation is going to come and go. Discipline is going to drive you to the results. But I've got my why, which drives my motivator. Accountability, definitely. So on the other podcast, it's just like, I know I wanted to start one for so many years, and I never did it. And it was like, I almost had to convince and sell somebody else to do it with me because I know I needed them to hold me accountable to doing it. With my own workouts, like a lot of times I have all those things. I have the education, the sport, and like I said, the discipline, but it's like sometimes that falls short still, and I need that accountability. And like when working out was the easiest for me, when working and hitting certain metrics from a professional standpoint was the easiest for me, is when I was working in a team. I was working in unison. I had somebody else with me with a similar why, similar goal, and it helped me a lot with my own accountability because I have a sense of responsibility almost to that person that I'm working with. And that can relate a lot to training. That's the reason why a lot of people get a trainer is like they need someone to be there waiting for them to show up or to hold them accountable. And in work, like people are like, well, I can do what my manager does. And it's like a lot of the job that leaders do or managers do is just holding people accountable. Like there is a lot of even in leadership, I would still use those 4 pillars a lot, like education, motivation, support, and then accountability. A lot of people, like humans, whether it's political, in a leadership role, or sports, like you have people who hold you accountable, head coaches, you have managers, you have presidents. Like you need people to kind of hold other people accountable. So
yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to verbalize those 4 big rocks, is because I feel like a lot of people are really good at work or really good at the gym or really good in relationships, and it's simple but not easy. It's simple to think about if you just add those 4 aspects into other areas of your life that it would help improve, but everybody has their different struggles. That's kind of at least the blueprint going forward to obviously that's just the blueprint essentially. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? I'm going to edit this part out, but let's see. We've talked about quite a bit.
Yeah.
I know we've rambled quite a bit.
Do you know how long it's been going? How long do you usually like your episodes to go?
I don't really care. I'll probably edit it down to like maybe 45 to like hour 15. I think we've been going for, it doesn't even give me like a clock really. I think it's like just a couple minutes, but all right. So I guess to add I guess to wrap up the podcast, or I guess the 3/4 mark of the podcast, just getting into, lighter notes, what the future holds. Where do you see fitness going in the next 2 to 5 years, whether it be from an online commercial aspect? We've already seen a ton of gyms just disappear.
Yeah.
We've also seen a lot of gyms pop out of nowhere, or at least fitness endeavors. Where do you think we're going to be?
Super interesting time, and I think it's something that everybody from outside of the industry and inside the industry should be looking at. Is post-COVID in the fitness industry is a unique atmosphere, right? So whether you are on the corporate side of things or you're just or you're somebody wanting to get into fitness. So when we initially started, I talked about this on another episode, but when we initially started in gyms, the average American that had a gym membership was somewhere around 12% so that was like, bro, 88% of America does not have an active health club membership. Recently a stat came out, 23.1% now has a membership. That's 4% higher than prior year, and that's almost doubling from where we started 8 years ago. So the industry is growing, but again, over 70% of America still doesn't have a health club facility to frequent. So that market is blowing up post-COVID, and I think it's because people want community. They realize how important their health was. Social media, again, is a booming platform for all platforms now, no matter what space you're in, you can't ignore what social media can do for you as a business. So that's blowing up, which again, everybody has emotional connection to their body and how they look and how they feel, and also that can lead to productivity. So I only see the fitness industry growing. For the future, I don't know what it's going to look like though. So like internet coaching was very popular, but now I'm seeing more and more people come back to brick and mortar, and then they'll use other things to complement it, but because they lack possibly the community aspect when they're independent or like virtually, or they lack some of the accountability piece of it because it's not somewhere they have to go, right? So I don't know if that's going to continue expanding. You've seen Peloton do terrible in the stock market as of recently, so and it just continues to downward decline. I see small group training kind of taking off lately, to be honest. That's one of the biggest things that across all commercial gyms that they're focusing on. No matter what name you think of right now, I can guarantee you at their board meetings they're talking about group fitness. So
Have you seen an influx inside commercial gyms with, traditionally, like, let's say, for example, a 24-hour fitness, an LA Fitness, a Crunch Fitness.
Mm-hmm.
I would say about 10 years ago, you're going to find about 70% of the demographic is going to be bodybuilders or powerlifters. 20% is going to be just the general population. And then I'd say about the general population, taking classes and kind of just doing machine circuits. And then maybe the other 5 to 10%, possibly seniors, just kind of just having a healthcare membership or just doing some exercise because they've just done it their whole life. At least when I go in, maybe I'm just going at different times. I mean, what's like the demographic breakdown, or have you seen an influx in any other type of athletes coming in, or the differences in workouts people are doing nowadays?
Yeah, so I think it kind of goes in cycles, I believe, with fitness. So if you think about mid-90s, right, all the way up till like 1990s, it was a lot of machine work, but your serious people were bodybuilding. And then it was like 2006 to kind of 2018, you kind of have that hit CrossFit phase, right? They got a lot of people in Olympic lifting or compound lifts, your big three, like with powerlifting as well. So your bench, squat, deadlift, that was kind of getting big. And then
I think functional training is very popular.
So that's what I was about to say. Yeah. So right after that phase, functional training blew up. Like that was the dynamic exercises, the full range of motion, moving multiple muscle groups and multiple planes of motion, challenging stability, and things like that was really big. What I'm seeing explode at the moment, though, if we're talking demographics, like the ages of 15 to like 30, more in my gym than ever. I would say 5 years ago, if you at any kind of time of day, if you just went to the gym and looked at the age demographic, you'd probably see 30 to 45 was your average gym goer at your commercial gyms, right? Right now, if you probably looked at it, I'd say it's probably 16 to 30. People are getting into fitness at a younger age, and with that, we've been pushing the resistance training is most optimal for weight loss and building lean muscle mass, that is what a lot of people are focusing on. You'll see once people get in that groove for a while, all of a sudden they start to focus on mobility. All of a sudden they start to focus on that. So it's like when you see people doing more functional stuff, you're like, oh, they've probably been doing this for a little bit because they've experienced resistance training. Now they know that that's not the end all be all.
That's funny. Dude, that's super funny that you say that too. Because I definitely notice. And I mean, maybe it's through injuries, lack of range of motion, or just knowledge. You don't see a lot of younger kids, hopping on the TRX or going through like unloaded movement or loaded movement training even. And that's the big reason why I wanted to bring it up, is because I feel like, bringing it back to the beginning of the podcast, when we talk about when we first met and started working out with each other, it was like almost strictly aesthetics, bodybuilding, powerlifting, mass, and how you look. Yeah. And we borderline, it's a different time back then, gave no regard for our body. No. When it comes to, form, rest days, if we were feeling like we should have taken an off day, we just go for it. Yeah. And then on top of that, a lot of ego, and then on top of that, a lot of stimulants, a lot of caffeine, a lot of pre-workout.
I'm still addicted.
But. No. And I just gotta, just bring it up from that aspect. And how has the caffeine supplement and supplement game in general affected how has the supplement game affected the youth? Or how is the supplement game looked at now versus how the supplement game used to be looked at?
It is good that most people don't fall for the bull crap of, that person's big because they take this supplement, right? That marketing campaign.
That used to be massive.
That used to be huge. So, that guy's taking it? Okay, I got to buy it. Yeah. That's gone for the most part, from what I see. Obviously, there's probably people that are just getting in the industry that still don't know what you don't know, right? But for the general population that ever will work out at a gym, know that that's bullshit. So they're not going to just follow it based on marketing. They still all love their pre-workouts, though. And typically that's a little bit of the short-term gratification again. Like, they can't handle having a bad workout. That's just what it is. You're going to have bad days based on what you're consuming, based on how you're sleeping, based on your hydration. And even just like central nervous system and like your body telling you that this was a bad workout is probably a good thing. And now when you overload that signal with stimulation, you don't know, and that's where injuries could possibly happen, right? So I think we've talked about it a lot in offline, right? That supplements are there to supplement an already good nutrition program. People still aren't there yet. They're still eating trash, but taking a lot of supplements, right? Which you still have to hit those daily requirements if you want to go one way or the other in lean muscle gain or weight loss. But I'd see it's dialed down a lot, but caffeine is booming. Pre-workouts are booming. And again, it's that short-term gratification. I believe they always want to have a good workout. They always want to have a good pump. And that's probably the trendy thing of like, what pre are you taking? Oh, let me get a scoop. Like, they just always want to be on a good one.
And that's the only reason I ask is because personally, I used to be a pre-workout fiend. I literally used to dry scoop, Jack 3D, Hyde, like all the ones that would like really F you up. Yeah, I gave no regard for my body. And that's why, if you're listening to this podcast, take it from us. We're not just some dudes. I mean, yeah, we are just some dudes. But I'd like to say we're some dudes that actually have the experience, knowledge, and, professional experience to be able to talk about this stuff.
For sure.
So working in the commercial gym still, and I hate to keep like bringing it back to you, but you see the most people. I mean, you see far more people than me or any other trainer really. I mean, being the general of the gym. So if I was a 16 to 22-year-old male or female, and I just walked up to you, what do you think? What are 2 or 3 supplements? And I know you're not a trainer, but what would you recommend me starting off with? If I was like, hey, I'm a very beginner, I want my beginner stack, give me a
of supplements?
1 to 2 month, and just like a quick, you don't have to tell me when to take them.
Yeah.
Like, is there anything out there, in layman's terms, that can really help me hit the gains or, start me off from, what would your 1 to 2 month, nutrition, supplement, and like workout beginner stack be? And this does not have to be in depth. This is more or less just a general, hey, if you don't know anything, here's your knowledge and support that we are giving you.
Yeah, it's so funny because I always answer their question with a question, right? I'm always like,
what's the goal?
What's the goal?
No,
it depends.
Like, dude, thank you. No, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to fitness, and that's like essentially exactly what I kind of knew you were going to say.
Hopefully, right?
No. And, but I mean, let's just kind of revert that back to, what Christian said about muscle density. If you were to be a young athlete starting off, or you're 95 years old, muscular endurance and strength training helps increase bone density. I forgot the statistic, but I think over like a 5 to 10 year span, it helped increase anywhere from 20 to 45%, depending on how old you were. So, and that's starting resistance training. And that could even mean starting, maybe you atrophied, stopped, got hurt, and then, restarted. And then that just plays such a major factor because a lot of older people fall. Balance goes first. Stability goes first. Once stability goes, balance goes. Once balance goes, you're on the floor. If you're falling on the floor pretty frequently, you're going to hurt yourself.
Yep.
Bones are going to be weak. And I feel like strength training in general is a really good way to maintain muscular strength, but also bone density as well. What do you think?
Yeah, that's literally from any physician that I've talked to or any study that I've read is to increase bone density, resistance training is one of the number one ways to do it. I had a trainer who used to work for me. She was an Olympic swimmer, and she would specifically train the elderly demographic. And because we would kind of...
Is it who I think I'm talking about or who I think you're thinking of?
She worked with me at La Costa.
Okay, never mind.
Okay, so... shit. Delete that.
Was it like, was it Masako?
No, it wasn't that. Edit that out. But the La Costa part. So we would specifically tee her up with the elderly demographic because most of the elderly demographic thinks they want to take, they want the buoyancy of the water, right? They're like, all right, let me go in there, let me start exercising. And we would tee them up because she was so familiar with the pool. Like if she's telling you not to do the pool, like you're going to almost have to listen to her. But yeah, like her big thing was resistance training, being on ground, like added load against gravity, like increasing like your bone density was like her number one thing. And it's huge. Like fitness is like the closest thing you have to the fountain of youth. Like it literally, it might not reverse the hands of time, but it's definitely going to make you, while you are here, a better standard of living.
Well, let's think about a couple things that we know kills everybody. Obesity, high blood pressure, cholesterol, high cholesterol, What else can you think of? I mean, cancers.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to go there and be that dark, but I mean, exercise helps reduce all of that.
It shows people who regularly exercise a minimum of 2 times a week, just 2 times, decreases all mortality rates.
Yeah.
Like, literally the stat is if you exercise 2 times a week, you are less likely to get hit by a car. Like, like all mortality rates.
I mean, you probably are able to move better too. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, like that's literally one of the things listed when it showed a decrease in stats, like of the census of all the people that they surveyed, right? But so all mortality rates, you're better off exercising.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter what kind. Like, obviously, there's more optimal kinds, but they just said, like, in that study, I believe it was just exercising. Maybe they did include resistance training. I can't recall.
I mean, we could talk about the benefits and the pros and cons to every sort of training, whether it be, resistance, cardio, CrossFit, powerlifting, bodybuilding, whatever it is. Like we said, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach for everybody. This is just what we have seen in our experience in Southern California, in commercial gyms, we're both sales managers, training, selling training. I mean, it's crazy to see the amount of difference in San Diego versus anywhere else in the world of how we see fitness.
Well, it's one of the most beautiful places on the world to live, and it's literally 75 degrees almost year round. I feel like people out here are very health conscious, which does give us a little leg up, is because we're working with people every day in fitness. More people are in fitness, more people are involved, and again, repetitions is going to push the industry forward. It's going to push the individual forward, and I feel like we just have more opportunity to grow the industry out here, and people who are fitness minded tend to be out here because they can work all methods of fitness year round. So it doesn't matter if you want to run 10K outside, like you can do that at any point in the year in San Diego for the most part. And to your point, like, fitness is fitness, and I have like my 4 pillars, which is resistance training, functional training, flexibility and mobility, and then cardio conditioning. And like everybody should spend time in all areas of that. And then depending on what your goal is, you'll obviously spend more time in one of those areas, but you need all 4. Like if you truly want a balanced program or you want to be a healthy individual, like I don't care how much weights you lift, if you never do any cardio, like sure, you can look great, but we can't necessarily call you fit. Like, can you run not that you need to do this, but can you run a 10-yard in? Like what does it look like? How do your knees feel? Sure. So how do your shoulders feel?
Or a big one that I like to say is, can you push a lawnmower? Can you stand up at your daughter's wedding for 3 hours? Can you bring the groceries inside? And I know these are all, like, if you're a younger, stronger person, whatever. But these are all legitimate reasons that people have come to me and other people to buy training from, because they have a hard time with just standing up at a wedding for half hour to an hour, and they just want to work on muscular stability and balance and not pass out.
Yeah.
And there are some people who literally are just, maybe they're too big to even, move or turn. And like Christian said, like run a 10-yard in. If you're just walking down the street and somebody bumps into you,
how do you react?
Exactly. How do you react? And I'm going to stop harping on the exercises and digging in and stuff.
Exercise, damn it.
Exercise, damn it. I guess the last thing we'll end on is, because I did say we were going to cover it, is if you were just a beginner, what's like the beginner stack as far? No, you're fine.
Just want to build lean muscle.
Yeah,
healthy individual.
Whether it comes from diet, fasting, supplementation, hydration, anything.
Yeah. So first thing I'm gonna look at is, because most people underconsume it in the Western society, is protein. You have to get your protein in, 100%. And there was a stat that came out of Europe. Dr. Gabriel Lyon dropped this recently. It's a little different because they did it grams of protein per kilogram, but they said if you do not eat 0.4 grams of protein to every kilogram you weigh, you are technically in a deficit of protein, and you will actually start to deteriorate muscle mass. So now you do that equation with like American Muscle, that's going to be your like recommended daily dose.
Jeez.
And she brought a good point for it, and it's like, sometimes, overeating too much protein can do certain things to the body, like inflammation and whatnot, but most Americans, again, are not over-consuming protein. That's going to be like your 1% bodybuilders. She put it like, so you have a daily recommended dose of vitamin C. You're feeling a little sick, under the weather, like you feel it coming on. or you're not going to double up on your vitamin C dose.
Yeah.
Like, you feel like you want to build a little bit more muscle, like, just because that's the recommended daily, like, minimum, like, go above and beyond.
Sure.
But usually I would say somewhere around, like, for your average male, like, at least 0.7 is kind of the number I use.
0.7 grams per pound of body weight.
Per pound of body weight. Obviously, and you got to change that a little bit depending on how much. We said a healthy individual, like if this person's extremely obese, theirs might not be like that because they're holding on a lot of fat weight, which messes with that algorithm a little bit. But so number one would be protein. Like, you got to make sure you're hitting your protein intake, or at least in the realm, right? You got to have a good amount. Don't be in a deficit. From there, like, it's funny because we don't talk about it as a supplement, but water, like, hydrate.
Yes.
And from there, I mean, if you're hitting your protein intake, you don't need BCAAs because BCAAs do make up protein, your branched chain amino acids, right? I sometimes will throw in creatine for people. Creatine helps with recovery throughout your workout to deliver ATP. Don't ask me to break down ATP. I cannot say that word.
Phosphate?
Yeah, thank you. Which, to simplify that, it helps deliver that and water to the muscle, but long term it just helps you recover a little bit more throughout your workout so that you can have more volume in your workout. More volume over the course of the year will give you more strength. Those are probably my two things that I would start with. Or three things, right? Because I said water. Protein, water, creatine. Obviously, you're going to have all your micronutrients that you probably need in your body. So if you're not taking a multivitamin, anybody who's starting to take their health seriously, I would tell them to look at that. I don't have a specific one I'd recommend, but make sure, like, if you're not eating anything green, you need something.
Yeah. And again, I mean, this is just our advice. You know, we ain't doctors. I'm not a registered dietitian. I'm not going to tell you need to eat per your blood type this many ounces of this type of protein. Sure, but these are legitimate questions that we get on the regular, whether it be, you know, inside a commercial gym, somebody just walking up to us, somebody that a client had asked me. And yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I would like to add is, you know, from the, you know, caffeine aspect, it's everywhere: coffee, pre-workouts, supplements. I think one thing that personally I have implemented is Himalayan pink rock salt.
Ooh.
Yeah. Like,
I've seen a lot of people doing that lately.
Dude, pre any workout, like whether it be lifting or cardio, and actually, well, another little secret, before my cardio sessions, I've been doing the Himalayan rock salt and like 2 drops of peppermint oil.
Okay.
On like the back of my tongue. And basically it helps, I can't break down the science very well, but it basically helps dilate like your lungs essentially. It opens up your airways, and I feel like, dude, my cardio is like borderline next level now. And then same thing with, you know, feeling that what's the term, like lactic acid buildup in your forearms from gripping, like deadlifts, kettlebells, like even like jumping rope, like my hands were like having a hard time like gripping it.
Yeah.
And I noticed, you know, with the rock salt and that little bit of water, it's just the extra hydration that your body's going to hold on to. That played a major factor in like into just, yeah, I sweat slightly more, but I felt so much like looser. I felt my blood flow was better. I felt like my blood oxidation, I know you can't really track that, but I felt like so, I'm not gonna say pure, but I guess if you were to do, you know, anything, that would be my one kind of like soft Rick tip would be rock salt, pink Himalayan rock salt, I think.
Bet. I'm gonna have to look at that.
Yeah, try it out if you haven't tried it. I mean, I'll do another podcast about the actual science of it once I do more research. I can think of the terms off the top of my head. But you know, so far so good. I mean, is there anything else you want to talk about today? I know we did a ton of ranting and a ton of reminiscing, and it's going to take a lot of editing. But yeah, I mean, anything you could think of?
No. Honestly, yeah, we covered a lot. If anybody takes anything away from any of that, I'm happy. That's why I think we both do this. Is there might be rants, but I know there's some value in there for whoever. I would say again, like, don't be intimidated. Like, something is still better than nothing. And even with like trying things, like there's 1,000 things that somebody's gonna say can help you. There's like big rocks in fitness and there's little rocks in fitness, like of where you should like put value in. But the biggest rock is just doing something. Like whether you want to build muscle or lose weight, if you want to grow in your career, if you don't want to grow in your career, like just put energy in that direction and start doing it. Like even a little bit at a time, and inches turn into miles. Like if you do them every day, right? You won't be in the same spot you were a year from now if you just move an inch at a time.
To get to places you've never been, you got to do things you've never done.
Yes, sir.
Bam. Finish it on that. Well, hell yeah, dude. Thanks, dude. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Like I said, A lot of ranting, a lot of chopping, but no, man, this is a good first video pod. Appreciate you coming. I'll probably have you back on to do like a revision after we listen to this and see how many ums and uhs we both said. And we're like,
Yeah.
So we're going to redeem ourselves eventually, but hell yeah, man. Thank you.
Of course. Y'all
Yeah.
know the name of the podcast, Burkdoeswork, so go out there and do work.
Hey. Burkdoeswork podcast, baby. Shit. Sorry, I took